Welcome in to the I-80 Boys podcast. I am your co-host, the better-looking one of us bunch, Chris Vaca. This guy over here to my left. You got a name?
I'm just, you messed me up, Chris. You messed me up right there. You said you were the better-looking one?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, maybe at a retirement home, all right? But let's just kind of simmer it down with these old antics of yours, right? They're very antiquated, if I could use a word there.
I don't even know what that means, but here we are. Christian, what's up, though? Like I always ask, man, how the hell's it going, brother?
Man, it's been a great week, Chris. It is today is hot as shit, right? I mean, I got in my car today. It was 108 degrees. By the time I got home, I was skinny.
God, you beat me to it. That's where I was going with it. Oh, shit. No, man. Other than that, though, man, what do you know? What are we talking about today? What are we doing? I'm pumped, man. College football season's right around the corner, bro.
Well, Chris, today we wanted to reward one of our guys who's been with us for a while, on the show. We want to do a little Washington breakdown. We'll save that for the very end here of the show, just as a special shout out. We cover Nebraska all the time, but I think one of the things that we're really going to look at today, Chris, is, you've kind of been reading the news, right, about college football here the last couple of days.
Oh yeah, I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, some very interesting things have happened over the last couple days. It's come out that Jim Harbaugh is likely facing a 4-game suspension. All right, this was being reported all throughout the news. Chris, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh boy, dude, I've been digging into this a little bit today. Obviously we watch other shows as well, but what the hell's the NCAA doing? I guess my biggest thing here, we'll break this down here real quick, but what are they doing, man? I know it's because he lied. That's where the NCAA's wanted to step in, Christian, and I think it's like a level 1 infraction or something like that. But it's ridiculous over buying. I actually, what I did read, I don't know if you know this, and I can't say this is 100% true, but I've seen a lot of sources leak this, and people was that he covered up a tip on a bill for some committed recruits that had drove like 500 miles for an unofficial visit. I mean, if that's the case, dude, the NCAA, I mean, I just don't understand, I guess. It's more like they put no cap on this NIL thing. Players are getting paid millions of dollars, basically. Some of these guys are college athletes, all this stuff. But you're gonna penalize a coach for 4 games because he bought somebody a cheeseburger? I just don't know what's going on, man. I mean, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this as well, Christian. We haven't talked about this, so.
Man, this is what's so crazy about all this, Chris, is nothing's final yet, right? So this is all just being prematurely reported, but it's being reported that Harbaugh originally was going to be suspended 6 games, but they are negotiating it down to 4. So this is part of a plea deal if he would accept this, right? Basically, the NCAA, they're pissed off that he lied to them and tried to cover up the investigation, right? And they basically want him to admit it and sign off on the fact that he lied. Harbaugh doesn't want to do that, right? He's stating that he just doesn't remember exactly all the details, allegedly. Right? This is all allegedly.
Yep.
Chris, I can tell you right now, 10 out of 10% of 10 out of every 10 times I've done something wrong in my life, I can probably tell you the details, especially something as significant as this. When you go in front of these committees, you have to think back on it. You know the rules. It's very black and white. That's the one part of it that I look at and I say, okay, I'm not cool with, right?
Right. No, I agree.
This is where I'm going with this, Chris. So we talked about that, right? And kind of like you said, it's also alleged that that's part of it. He bought someone a cheeseburger, right, and covered up the tip for it. But it's also part of this too has to deal kind of with a text message, if I'm not mistaken, between staff members outside of the allowed contact period window. Right? So to me, Chris, I look at this, I say, maybe this is why he was trying really hard to get to the NFL these last 2 years.
That's a good point. Very good point, Christian. I mean, not to interrupt you, but I've talked about that several times, haven't I? Or the NFL kind of said, F you.
Yeah.
And we all know he's been looking the last 2 years. Let's be honest.
Chris, this brings up a really good point, though. In this new age where college athletes are making six figures plus, should we really be worried about a cheeseburger and a text? Exactly. I mean, should he really be suspended for 4 games for this? I mean, if this was 10 years ago and this was Jim Tressel at Ohio State over some tattoo, money.
Yep.
He'd have been fired, dude.
Yeah. No, I know. That's what I'm getting at. It's like with the way, today's college athletes, I mean, not just football players, athletes, the money that's being thrown around, all this stuff that the NCAA has no control over, it seems like, and or don't care. And we're worried about this. I don't know what the hell they're doing. The NCAA is dead to me, man, honestly. Like, and it's been trending that way for a long time now. It's amazing to me. And I mean, we've seen the backlash over this, and I agree. He shouldn't have lied about it. I'm not saying that's correct on what Jim did, but you make a good point there, Christian. It does leave it up for debate. Maybe that's why he was, because wasn't this a couple years ago, if I'm not mistaken, when this happened, or did they have a date on it? I guess I'd missed that.
No, I think it was over 2019, 2020, if I remember reading the dates right there. So,
okay.
Yeah. It was a little bit ago. For sure that this happened. This was a couple years ago. To me, I don't think this is going to impact, and a lot of people are saying this, the cover-up's worse than the crime. And that's exactly it. We did not have, it didn't have to get to this point, right? So, but here's the thing, Chris. I don't think this impacts really anything in the short term, right, as far as what they would have done. I think in the long term, though, this might have some consequences for Michigan. Let me explain. Their first 4 games are against Eastern Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, and Rutgers. Pretty sure I could put you or me in as the coach there, and we could still win those games against those teams on talent disparity alone. Where I think this gets really interesting, Chris, their first game back, the first game Harbaugh comes back, is going to be against Nebraska.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and say Nebraska's going to beat them. I'm just saying Nebraska might prove to be a very interesting game with all those storylines kind of circulating there, right?
So here, I want to know this. I mean, this is what I think. Some of the chat, we got a few Nebraska guys in there, but
yeah,
what does that? I guess in your perspective, Christian, I wanted to ask you this question specifically. Does that make that game closer because of this going on? His first game back. Daniel makes a great point there. Exactly. I mean, does that make this game closer in your eyes, Christian? Now that if Jim is suspended allegedly for these 4 games, if that does come down, his first game, I think this game is at Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, for Nebraska. Do you think that gives us a little bit of an edge?
I do, just because it's a distraction.
Right.
Okay. Right. I mean, it's enough of a distraction to where it might impact you. This isn't the NFL where, you can afford to go out and lose 1 or 2 games a year. I mean, that's, right. And even still, you can still make it to the playoffs and anything can happen. But I do think that this might be just enough of a distraction to where it could make some difference. Here's the thing, or it could go the other way, Chris. It could go the other way because from what I've read, what I've been told, Harbaugh will still be allowed to kind of be at all the practices. He's just not going to be anywhere allowed near the team for those days, right? So he'll be at the practices. He'll probably still have them going, and then he might just skip right on ahead to. Well, I don't think he's going to skip ahead. You know what I mean? You can't really do that if he's going to be doing all the rest of practices. He's going to probably take it 1 game at a time, but he might, if he's smart, start peeking ahead to Nebraska just a little bit, because I know what a lot of people are going to say. This is not going to be the same Nebraska team that you see year in and year out. Matter of fact, last time, even with Scott Frost as the head coach, Nebraska and Michigan played, if I'm not mistaken. It was a close game, was it not?
Oh, yeah. No, we've actually played them really tough the last couple of times we have played them. It's just, I agree with you. I think it's more the distraction side of it. Maybe gives Nebraska. Now, when I say edge, guys, I don't mean Nebraska's going to be favored in that game or anything like that. I mean, maybe give us, obviously I'm a huge Nebraska homer, probably the biggest one on the internet. I think that gives us maybe a little bit of a chance just to play better than what we would, or Michigan maybe doesn't play up to their rating and their ranking. Like I said, I'm ultra high on Michigan this year anyway. But it is very interesting to kind of see the next couple of days, like what comes out here, what kind of all happens. You made a great point though, Christian, like I said earlier, man, it kind of makes you gotta wonder, like, was that part of the reason, or maybe some of the reason he was maybe trying to get out of Michigan? I think people kind of forgot about that this offseason. He was trying to go to the NFL, guys. I follow a ton of NFL, and he was putting in for jobs. And the NFL gave him a middle finger. So I don't know if maybe it was because of that. Maybe he figured he's beaten Ohio State the past couple of years, got that monkey off his back, and he wants to move in back into the NFL where he was actually pretty successful with the 49ers. So.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, you're not wrong. I'll say this to kind of wrap it up on this. Daniel makes a good point. He thinks that Nebraska could pull an upset if the distractions gets to Harbaugh mentally. I agree. And the reason why I say this, every year weird shit happens in college football. Like last year we look back at the Georgia-Ohio State game. Now, this had nothing to do with coaches or anything like that. Actually, this is a very good point where you look at it. Their wide receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigba, right? Mm-hmm. He sat out that game. A lot of people would probably make the argument if he played in that game, Marvin Harrison got hurt, they might have probably beat Georgia.
Right.
So it's these little, small, incremental things that add up on you. Now they're not a young team by any stretch of the imagination. Like I'm not looking at Michigan like I would look at Northwestern, who had to replace a coach for the entire year, and saying, well, this is probably not good.
Right.
But
no,
go ahead.
You're right. No, I mean. And I think this would help Nebraska a little bit, but I'm actually with Children of the Corn on this one. Unless, like, Harbaugh, this thing just goes, like, total haywire here the next couple weeks and he gets suspended and they start digging into more shit and they find out he was doing some other stuff. I actually think Michigan, is just so superior of a team in the Big Ten this year. I put them up there, obviously, with the Penn State and the Ohio States of the world. Nebraska would have to play out of their mind. But like I said, there's a lot of football games up until that point. So hell, who knows what can happen? We got to get by Minnesota first. So
man, yeah, I know you guys are going to be definitely circling that game. We're going to be calling that, so get your popcorn ready because we're excited, man. I mean, we're getting inside of a month now, right? God, we're almost right there. I am super excited for college football season to kick off.
Absolutely.
Well, Chris, let's segue here, and we're going to get into a little main course and talk a little UCLA Bruins football.
All right.
Chris, what are your thoughts on the Bruins?
Man, this was a team that when I saw this on the tracker type of thing, that possible teams we could talk about, I was kind of excited about. I know everybody, I'm not real high on the Pac-12, but this year I kind of am. There's a lot of good teams out there. A lot of quarterbacks all returning for most of these teams in the Pac-12. We know about USC. We know about Oregon. We know about Daniel's team in Washington. We know about Oregon State, Utah. They're back-to-back, Pac-12 champions. So UCLA to me is interesting, though, Christian. 9-4 last year. Damn good season. 6-3 in conference. They averaged 39.2 points per game. I believe that put them top 10 in the country, somewhere around 7th or 8th last year. That's a lot of points being thrown around, but that is also the Pac-12. They gave up 29 points a game, put them at 92nd in the country. Need some help on that end for sure, but 65th in strength of schedule. And I believe they lost in the Sun Bowl to a team we just covered last week, Christian. If I'm not wrong, it was Pittsburgh. So here's my thing, Christian. I want to ask you, I know you're going to dig super deep into the old player stats here, but Chip Kelly's on a 6th year. I think he's been pretty successful wherever he's been, even the NFL there for that short stretch. If you count the 1 year at the 49ers and throw that out the window, he's been a good coach. If anybody doesn't know, he was at Oregon. He was successful there. He brought him to a national title with, I think that was the year they had Marcus Mariota, if I'm not mistaken. So he's a good coach. He's doing something at UCLA. He's turned that program around a little bit. They were kind of the doormat of the Pac-12 the previous few years. He's gotten them better. They've done some things. Christian, I'm going to hand it over to you here because I know where you're going.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Last year, UCLA and Chip Kelly, they're coming off of a 9-4 season. Pretty damn good for UCLA, man. Anytime you can get 8+ wins at UCLA and it's not basketball season, you're doing something right.
Right.
My question, Chris, how did they respond with the loss of quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson? He was the school's all-time leader in total offense. He had over 12,000 yards while he was there. He was a 48-game starter. Chris, that's hard for anybody to replicate. To me, and this is the presumed starter that we're looking at, right? This is the presumed starter here. 5-star true freshman Dante Moore. He was the number 4 player in last year's class, right? This kid can be an elite quarterback. I like what he can do. He's got a little bit of mobility to him. He's got a big arm, but he's really young, right? He's really young. He's going to a UCLA team that loses a lot of pieces from last year's team. I think it's going to be good to get him some reps early this year because next year they take off for the Big Ten. So immediately, they're going to see a big jump as far as the production that they're going to face, right? Now, if they can get this kid playing early, maybe could they do something in line with like Ohio State or Michigan? Not a Michigan, but you know what I'm saying, like an Ohio State, where they're that team in the conference that is lights out on offense, but they get in these big matchups and it's a shootout. Maybe. It's very, very real possibility, but to me, they're going to have to figure out their quarterback situation this year. It's not guaranteed that he starts the season opener, right? They have a 3-way battle going on right now, and Kelley's not going to divulge anything. He's a professional in that regard, right? The battle right now is between Kent State transfer Colin Schlee, who had 2,600 yards and 17 touchdowns last year, and Ethan Garbers, who was on the team last year and Thompson Robinson's backup. He had 300 yards and 4 touchdowns last year over a 4-game span. I think it's safe to say that Dante Moore will end up playing pretty early, if not winning the job outright.
You said it best. I mean, we've heard the hype about this kid. If he's smart, he starts him, dude. I mean, he's their best option. This kid is really good. I watched a few highlight reels and stuff like that. And you can soup all highlight reels of even Christian Hunt up back in the day and make him look like a 5-star. But this kid's really highly touted. People are very, very high on him. No, I'm almost 100% positive he probably ends up starting. If not, he's in right away, second, third game of the year. UCLA's, I don't want to say their schedule's the worst, but they got some tough teams in there, and we'll break that down here shortly. And it gives them the best chance to win this year. So, yeah, he's gonna be a name. Give him a couple years from now, and we'll talk about him a lot, I'm sure.
100%. I mean, he has a potential to be, if he pans out, he has a potential to be a top 5 quarterback taken in the NFL, if everything goes right. Chris, the other side of this too is, and the big question is, who's he going to throw the ball to?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They went out and got Cal transfer J. Michael Sturdivant, who brings some much needed size. I mean, Chris, this guy is 6'5". He makes you and me look small from that standpoint. Yeah. So he has a chance to become their primary threat. Right, he put up 65 catches and 7 touchdowns with the Bears last year. I like that. He's played in this conference. He can do some things. I mean, he can definitely do some things there, right? Running game should be good this year. They're going to lean on transfer tailback Carson Steele, who led the MAC in rushing yards last season. He had 1,500 rushing yards at Ball State. So I want to see how can he translate to this level, right?
And interrupt here. I mean, he lost Zach Charbonnet, or however you say his name. He's in the Seahawks now. He was a stud for UCLA. I was going to say anyway. I'll let you keep going on. I forgot about him though. He had some good seasons there with UCLA.
Yeah, he's another guy that might have a quietly good year this year. Depending on what happens with Kenneth Walker, health wise, everything like that, he might get some touches.
Oh yeah.
They also bring back Keegan Jones. He had 500 yards and 5 touchdowns last year, so if everything doesn't work with Carson Steele, the lights get a little too bright, you can lean on Keegan Jones. Chris, the biggest question mark to me that determines how all this is going to do, the offensive line. They went out and got a bunch of transfers in the portal. How are they going to hold up, and how are they going to play at this level?
Yeah. No, you said it best. Offensive line, man. I mean, what are they going to do? I think that's a big question mark this year. Christian, I'll say this, and I'll kick it back to you. If they can put up close to 40 points a game, I mean, that's a lot of points, Christian. I mean, it really is. We know it's a Pac-12. The defenses are softer for the most part over there, but if they can block, dude, and you're going to have to block for this Moore kid. You're going to have to. I mean, he's a freshman at the end of the day, so I'll be interested to see what happens there.
I got a defensive stat for you, Chris. I got a defensive stat for you here.
What do you got?
The Bruins were the only team in at the FBS level last year.
50-yard play?
Yep, not to give up a single 50-yard play. But guess what?
You still give up 30 a game?
They ranked 110th nationally and allowing gains of 10-plus yards.
Isn't that a weird stat, though? Contradicts the shit out of itself if you think about it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's kind of like, so they didn't allow the bombs because you had Tom Brady back there dicing them up for 25 yards every throw.
Well, that's what they call like the true definition of a bend don't break defense, right?
Yeah, they just broke.
Right? It's just funny to me, though. I did see that stat roaming around out there, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, there ain't no way that's true. No way. It's funny.
Only UCLA, as we call them down south. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing, and this is what makes this all interesting to me, Chris. Kelley is bringing in a new defensive staff this year. It's going to be led by defensive coordinator D'Anton Lynn, who was with the Ravens last year. Here's the thing. He's never called plays.
Wow.
So it's going to be really interesting to see how he does in year one. He's going to get a lot of upperclassmen back, especially on the front seven. They've got the Murphy twins are coming back, right? They also get an outside linebacker, and I hope I say this right here. I'm terrible at pronouncing names. Latu, who had 10.5 sacks last year. Chris, that's pretty damn good. Mm-hmm. So if they can get that guy going early, that's going to be really good. The linebacker room is going to be led by Mike linebacker Darius Masau, who led the team in tackles last year. Will linebacker look out for Vaughns and a combination of Bryant Struthers to have a solid year this year. I think they can contribute. The secondary is going to be led by sophomore Jalen Davies. He had 3 interceptions last year. Chris, I think overall they should be better on the defensive side of the ball, but how much better, only time will tell.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep. Now, I can't disagree with what you said there. I think that's a big question mark. I think their offensive line is a big question mark this year with losing some guys last year. But a lot of it's going to come up to, I mean, we're going to break it down. I'm going to save my end take for these guys here shortly once we get into the schedule. But no, I think UCLA's got a chance to surprise some people this year. It does seem like they're the team that nobody's talking about, especially over in the Pac-12. So everybody's talking about the Oregon States, the Utahs of the world, obviously, you know, Washington and Utah and all those guys, or, USC and those guys. So.
Well, Chris, I think without further ado, let's get into a little UCLA record prediction here, Chris. I'll let you go. I'll let you go first. What do you think here?
I got to kick it to me. Okay, I'll make it relatively quick here. Here we go. We got Coastal Carolina. That is not. Coastal Carolina, by the way, is not a terrible program, but no. We're going to give UCLA the nod there. San Diego State, I think they get by those guys. You know, North Carolina Central, we're definitely not worried about them. But big game, week 4, Christian, right there. At Utah. That's a tough one. And Utah's a tough place to play. I'm giving a nod to Utah there. And this is the thing with UCLA. If they end up starting more, true freshman quarterback, that's a tough road game to go in there. Very tough. So I'm high on Utah this year. So we're going to give Utah the nod. Washington State, I'm giving UCLA the nod at Oregon State. Now that one's another one, road game in Corvallis. That's not an easy place to play by any means. I'm giving a nod to Oregon State there. So we got 2 losses. Stanford, I think, is going to be terrible this year. Colorado, who I'm ultra think they're going to be terrible. Arizona, I got them getting a W there probably. I have them losing between Arizona and Arizona State here. Christian, it'll be interesting to hear your take on this. And we got USC and then Cal. Overall, I have them going 8-4 this year. And a lot of that's going to ride on the quarterback play. You don't have Dorian Thompson in there anymore. He's not there. He was a veteran leader. He's a veteran guy. I'm big on quarterbacks coming back. If you guys want to check out a conference that's got a bunch of quarterbacks coming back, check out the Pac-12. The teams I all mentioned earlier, USC, Oregon State. Oregon State's got DJ Ungale, or however you say it, ukulele, as Christian likes to pronounce it. They got a bunch of people. Michael Penix of Washington. All these guys are coming back, man. So overall, I don't think Chip Kelly's a bad coach, Christian. I don't think this is going to be a bad season by any means. But I have them pinned at about 8-4. Losses to USC and/or Arizona State. I think they slip it in one of those games. You can pick Oregon State and Utah.
Chris, yeah, I think, that's fantastic coverage there from a grade A seasoned veteran over there. If you're a UCLA fan, Chip Kelley fan, anything that has to do with this program, comment down below what you think UCLA is going to do this year. We'd love to hear your feedback.
Absolutely.
Chris, here's what I'm going to say, though, because I'm probably going to piss some people off, and they're going to let me know in the comments here. I got them 7-5. 7-5. Okay. Not terrible. It's a rebuilding year for me, but let me explain why I think that 7-5, is kind of where I got them at.
All right.
I actually got them losing the first game to Coastal Carolina. I got them a loss at Utah. I'll explain my reasoning here in just a second.
Oh, this ought to be good.
This ought to be good. All right, so I got them losing at Utah. I got them losing against Oregon State, USC, and a surprise loss somewhere on this schedule. Okay. You kind of touched on them splitting the Arizona State series. Mm-hmm. Maybe it could be there. Who knows? Maybe Washington State or Stanford could do it. It could be really, really interesting this year for them. The reason why I picked them to get upset by Coastal Carolina is this is a Coastal team, Chris, that has a lot of star power.
Yeah, they do.
Coming back. I mean, they've got quarterback Grayson McCall, Sam Pinckney, running back Reese White, and C.J. Beasley are coming back. Jamie Shadwell, however, is gone. Okay, he's gone, but Tim Beck steps in. The former NC State coordinator is coming back in here. That matchup should be a shootout, is what I'm thinking. And if it's a shootout, dude, I like Coastal Carolina to upset them to start the year off right.
Bold take. All right.
It is a bold take. I mean, I'm going to put my money on it too, so don't worry about that because I'm sure that'll be a tasty money line right there.
I bet, but unfortunately, you don't have much money, so I bet a couple bucks you're going to throw at it. So.
Yeah, I have to support you over there, by God.
Yeah, that's true. You'll be putting me in a retirement home here in the next 5 years.
Chris, I think the combination of breaking in a talented but very young quarterback alongside of a questionable O-line, all while having to let a defensive coordinator who's never called plays before, that could be worse than what I'm saying. Could be worse, could be better. You don't know. Listen, Chris, I'm not saying I don't see the bigger picture here. I just think it's going to take them time to get all this gelled together. They might end up being an okay team this year, and then they go over to the Big Ten next year and get absolutely stomped out.
That's going to be tough. I know we haven't talked or touched much on this. It's been a while, but yeah, it'll be. I'll say this about their counterpart, USC. Moving over to the Big Ten. Different brand of football being played over there, boys. Different brand of football, Christian.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, you're not wrong. I mean, this is going to be interesting to see how they finish this year for sure, and I'm excited to see both of them make the jump. Chris, it's time. It is time for your favorite segment that we do on this show. A little hot take, buddy. Read us in.
Boy, here we go. Washington wins the Pac-12. Daniel, I'm sure you're super excited. One of our super fans here, big-time Huskies fan. I'm probably not going to do you any justice today, Daniel. I apologize. But here's the deal. I have USC this year, and I want Washington to win the Pac-12 in my heart. Do they have a chance? Yes, they do. Vegas actually has them at plus 350 winning the Pac-12. If you guys don't know anything about betting or what that means, basically if you put $100 down and Washington would happen to win the Pac-12, you would come back with $350. They had the third best odds in the Pac-12 to do that. The teams ahead of them are obviously Oregon, who's at plus 325, so they're pretty much split there down the road. But obviously USC is at plus 180, Christian. I'm sure, obviously I know you bet too as well, Christian. But the big thing is here is why I have them. They have a chance to compete for the Pac-12 title, and I'm not saying that they can't win it. I'm very high on USC this year. I know a lot of people are. Everybody's going to throw out the Caleb Williams, the returning Heisman winner, Lincoln Riley. Can he get it done? I do like Washington. I really do. I like Washington a lot. We're pulling up their schedule here. Last year, great record last year. It's doable. It is. I just think this year in the Pac-12 and the schedule this year, there's just a lot of tough teams. And I have losses this year, and I'll say it on air. I have Washington, unfortunately, losing to Oregon. I have them losing to USC. That's where I'm at. Christian, give me your thoughts. What do you think? Tell me why I'm wrong. And Daniel's right.
Man. Chris, here's what I'm going to say. First and foremost, I got to do Daniel some justice here, man. Got to do him some justice.
All right.
Damn straight. All right, listen. Kalen, and I hope I'm saying this right, Debor had 11 wins last year after taking over a 4-win Huskies team the year prior. They returned Michael Penix Jr. at the quarterback position, who had 35 touchdowns and 4,700 yards last year. They returned 2 1,000-yard receivers. They returned a running back who had 13 touchdowns last year in Cameron Davis. Okay, listen. I know what you're going to say. The defense. Look, one of our subscribers, and we know who it is, he's assured me that the defense will be much better this year. And I'm inclined to believe him. Especially up front, and we always talk about that. When you get a lot of the front seven back, it makes it easier on the back half of that secondary. They get some key pieces back. They're going to be led by the edge rusher, Braylon Trice, who had 10 sacks last year, Chris. That's big. Big time. If they can stay healthy and play even better up front than they did last year, I believe this defense can be really good this year and take some pressure, again, like we talked about, off that secondary. That's going to be the key for them getting over those 2 losses they had last year, right? Is to take some of the pressure off of the offense. They return a lot of production on the offensive side of the ball, Chris, and let's be honest, the Pac-12 is an offensive league. So you know what? So why not? Lock it in, Chris. Washington's going to win the Pac-12 this year. Or at the very least, make it to the Pac-12 championship game, Chris. Bet it.
Damn. Okay. I hope you're right. I do. I like Washington a lot. I'm a big Michael Penix fan. I got to watch him in the Big Ten at Indiana quite a bit. He was a stud there. No, I tell you what, man, it's Washington's a very, very slept-on team too. Nobody talks about them. Everyone wants to talk about USC. Everyone wants to talk about Oregon. Hell, even probably Utah's getting more hype just because of the back-to-back, conference titles here the last couple of years. So I like your take on that, Christian. Like I said, I think Washington's going to be a tough team. If their defense improves, absolutely. The offense ain't going to be a problem for them. I can tell you that. I can almost bet that and take that one to the bank this year. Their offense is going to be fine. It's going to be the other side of the ball in those big games. They do obviously have USC. Christian's not going to be easy this year, in Oregon. It's going to be tough, but like I said, if anybody can do it, man, it could be Washington. I think their coach is a hell of a coach too. So what he did last year from the previous year was freaking amazing. You don't see that very often in college football. No,
you do not. And that's why I'm buying into Daniel. His stock. He's been telling us about Washington.
Oh yeah.
I'm learning much more about it. I might be allowed in that state after what we're going to do on Friday. I don't think I'm going to be allowed in the state of Georgia ever again. So I'm just going to put it that way.
I actually, if you guys tune in on Friday, by the way, this is going to be good. Christian, we're going to put him on the hot seat. We're going to find out how much he really loves those Bulldogs. Coming off that back-to-back, I know what I'd be doing. I'd be walking around with my pants off, screaming 3 in a row, but here's Christian. So I'll let you guys stay tuned for that one, though. It's going to be interesting. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So, guys, be sure to comment down below what you guys want to talk about. We got a little bit of talk about the Huskers. We got a little bit of talk about some of the other stuff in the Big Ten. I think I saw something about Penn State here.
Absolutely. That's my team this year, man. What are you talking about?
That's your team, Chris, but let's just make sure everybody understands. We got a little participation trophy of the week here for us, okay? We got that fan base. We gave them a trophy because they haven't won one of meaning in so long. We wanted to make sure they didn't feel left out because we pissed a lot of their fans off. Those Penn State fans, they like to remind us about how marginally average they've been over the last 20 years.
True. Yeah, we did bring the facts out. I think they were a little more upset at you. I do have them beating Ohio State this year, man. I know that doesn't. It's not maybe possibly winning the Big Ten. Come on, man. Come on.
Well, like I said, could they do it? Sure, absolutely. But, that's the big thing here. Crypto says, where's the donation button? I will explain that to you. So we got to hit 500 subscribers first before we can actually add a donation button. I did check into that. I've been looking at that. So if the best way to do that, the best donation we can get right now is more subscribers.
Absolutely. Well, we're working on that. Like I said, guys, give us another month here, man. We're going to, I don't want to let you guys know what we're going to be doing, but it's going to be some big things here within the next month once the season starts. And by the way, I do appreciate the support. Not to cut you off, Christian, but I do. Thank you guys for stopping in on Wednesday. I do. And like I said, some of you guys have been around since we started, Christian. That's awesome. So we do appreciate that, by the way. We
really do. We're working on, we're really working on getting 256 more to go. We're getting there, by God. This is our path to partners here.
Yeah, exactly.
The big thing is I think we're also going to work on trying to get a call-in show too, where you guys can call in and be more a part of the show. I think that'd be pretty good to do. Yep. As well, kind of get us more connected. Let's jump back up here to Andy Harris. He says, bet under 3.5 Colorado. I love it.
I love it. All day, Andy. I take that one to the bank, baby. Cash that one in. I think Vegas does have them at 3.5 or something right around there. So I actually did put some money down on that. Partially, Christian, because I am a Colorado hater to begin with. And I just and secondly, there's Pac-12 did them no favors this year in scheduling at all. Yeah,
the Pac-12 really did not do them any favors. No. Also, I mean, they look super small on both sides of the line there, man. I mean,
bring that up again.
I think I'm bigger than most of their offensive linemen, dude. I mean, geez.
You are. You're definitely bigger. You're definitely rounder. That's for sure.
How far are we, from Colorado, Chris? How far is Omaha from Colorado?
About 6.5, 7 hours I-80.
6.5, 7 hours. I might have to take a trip down there, man. They might mistake me for an actual. They might actually mistake me for the mascot if I go down there, though.
Yeah, well, that's true. You are a big boy, Christian. But I'm not. No, you're not wrong though. I remember that comment you made months ago when we did the Colorado preview about them being small. Man, we got ate up on that one, man. And I'm with you. I don't see. They got some stud athletes. Let's not. I mean, Shedeur Sanders might be a great quarterback. Travis Hunter? I mean, I don't think he's gonna be playing both ways. If he does that all year, he's gonna be dead. In today's era, but like they have some talent. Yeah, sure, they got some really good players. This is a whole new freaking team with all the changeover going on over there. And yeah, their offensive line to me and defensive line looks small. Not when you got to play the Oregons of the world and the USCs and the Washingtons. Like, come on, man. Some of these Deion Sanders simps out there that thinking they're winning 10 games. I don't understand it. They obviously don't watch much football, so I don't know.
No, you're absolutely right. We're getting some people saying, please make the show longer and start 30 minutes later. I think we can do that. I mean, we'll look at doing that. We did that before, and we didn't really get a lot of traction. So we just want to make sure if we do it, hey, I think we will get some more traction. It's a great idea. Making the show longer, we can absolutely do that. Again, it kind of goes into a little bit of who's watching, what are the different topics we can cover. We love talking ball. Love sitting back here, drinking a few beers, watching it. 8 hours, I can't go down there. I mean, Andy's saying it's 8 hours, Chris. We've got Children of the Corn saying, I'm going to get stabbed if I go down there. I can't do that. I mean, that's a guaranteed bad time for me.
Well, yeah, but you're also like a human pincushion, so you're all right. So let's I know I shouldn't have said that. I feel like a terrible person now. Sorry, Christian.
Well, listen, by the end of this season, you're going to need a walker, and it's not because you're old.
Well, yeah. Okay. Well, I am old. 38 is considered old to Christian, I guess, these days. I don't know. I don't think you're that far behind.
Well, don't remind me about that, Chris. By God, I can't be fat and old.
Well, yeah, then you end up in a wheelchair, not a walker.
Jeez.
I know. What do we got here, Christian? What other one we touching on? We got all sorts of stuff going on here in chat.
Well, they're talking about this. He says having Prime successful is only good for college football. I agree. Adds another brand there.
Exactly.
Adds another brand there. Crixus says thoughts on Ohio State this year. Chris, we talked about this. I'm high on Ohio State. You're not as high.
No.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's not because Ohio State doesn't have the talent. I just don't think Here, I got a question on top of Chris's question.
Yeah.
If Ryan Day doesn't beat Michigan this year, is he on the hot seat for next year? Super hot seat.
He'll be on the hottest seat in America. A lot of people are like to say, well, no. Well, now hold on one second. I want you to ask that question one more time.
If Ryan Day loses to Michigan for the third straight year, will he be on the hot seat next year?
I think it depends in the context because I saw this. I hold on one second because I said the same thing. I said, okay, I 100% think he's going to be on the hot seat. But then I saw something float out there. What would you do? Okay, what would you do if for whatever reason Ohio State beats Penn State? Penn State beats Michigan. And then Michigan beats Ohio State somehow.
Three-way tie. Yeah,
there's a three-way tie somehow because of the tiebreaker. Ohio State gets in there. What into the conference championship or whatever have you, and they end up playing in a national championship. What would you do then?
I think that scenario is probably the least percentage of that happening, but
yeah,
no. Is there a possibility? Absolutely, 100% that could happen this year with those three teams. They're all going to be good. I don't see. I just don't think. I just honestly, truthfully, 100% to piss off the Ohio State people, or the Ohio State man, as I like to say. I just don't think they're going to be as good this year. I think finally this run of C.J. Stroud and Justin Fields, I think kind of finally. I'm not saying that I think it's going to be Kyle McCord probably more than likely being the quarterback, and I'm not saying Ryan Day doesn't know how to coach up quarterbacks, but that team, I keep saying this word soft. They give up way too much on the defensive side of the ball in games that matter. I know people are going to bring up, we played with Georgia. I get that. I do. But you guys, they haven't beat an SEC school in I swear it's 3 years or 4 years, something like that, Christian. That should make you happy. Yeah. When it comes to physical style play, especially teams like the Michigan, Penn State, I think is going to be super, super physical this year. They're going to run the ball with those two stud backs. I just don't see it happening this year. I know their wide receiver room is loaded. I know you brought up the running backs this year. I just, if their defense doesn't improve, to me, I do see them. I have them pegged at 10-2. That's my thoughts. And I might be wrong, but there is a scenario, though, to answer your question, where that could possibly happen. No, then he's probably not on the hot seat. But what happens if he loses to Penn State and Michigan? Do you fire him?
If he loses to, I mean, it just depends on who's floating around out there. Again, if you're so super high on Wisconsin, let's say they yeah, he's an Ohio State guy. He's coached there before. Shit,
absolutely.
Who's to say they can't make a run? Wisconsin can't make a run this year. Now, I'm not super high on him, but let's say he goes in and he gets the most out of that team, and they end up, in a Big Ten championship game this year, and they keep it close against a Michigan. He gets blown out against Michigan. You know what I mean? Maybe. Crazier things have happened. Ohio State's got the money. They got the resources. They don't have a lot of turnover at the head coaching position every year. So
right.
I would say he's 100% on the hot seat if he does not.
Okay.
If he doesn't win that game, but it depends on the context of it. If Michigan has a really weird year and they lose 2 games out the gate or whatever have you, and not 2 games out the gate, you know what I'm saying? But when Harbaugh gets back, they kind of stutter trying to find their rhythm here. Nebraska pulls an upset and everything like that. But somehow they come back at the end of the year, beat Michigan or beat Ohio State, in the year off. But Ohio State's a one-loss team. That could be a very interesting dynamic there, right?
Well, and to add to that, I think Ryan Day, and I would assume they're normal people in Ohio State, if there are any, would probably really want that playoff win. I think that would help that fan base and that team. You know what I mean? He's kind of like Lincoln Riley to me in a way. Great records every year, but when it matters, Ohio State fans walk around like they're top of the world every year. Really, they do have 2 national titles in the last 23 years. That's great, but they act like they're royalty. I think Ryan Day, if he wants to establish himself as a great Ohio State coach, which they've had some good ones go through there, I think they're just desperate for one of those playoff wins. The same could be said about Michigan too. That's the same thing. I think that's their next hurdle as well. It's not easy. There are only 4 teams make it every year. So
yeah, like you said, dude, to be one of those top. To be one of those top 4 teams, you got to do something really special. You don't have to go undefeated, but you got to at least win. You can only lose 1 game, maybe 2, but that's kind of in a rare year too. Chris, let's get your thoughts. Jeff Sims, what do you think about him?
Man, I tell you what, dude. The more and more I read, the more and more I hear. Man, preseason Heisman candidate this year, Christian. I'm throwing it out there. I think he is the quarterback that fits Matt Rule's style the best. We've talked about that a lot. more of that, RPO style, man. He can run. If he can throw this year, look great in the spring game. Sky's the limit for this kid, man. He's been around the game for a long time. So I'm high on him. I'm very high, Crypto. I'm very high on him. I think he's going to have a big year this year. I think he's going to be a little under the radar. But if he gets off to a hot start, plays well against Minnesota, obviously going into Colorado, we got to win that game, by the way. Got to win that game just for my own sanity. I think Sims is going to get some hype midseason. Coming in that Michigan game when we do play him, hopefully we're undefeated at that point. You never know, man. You never know.
I really like him. I like Jeff Sims. I like the fit with Matt Rule. I mean, it just seems like it's exactly what Matt Rule wants in a quarterback, a dynamic athlete that can run that RPO style. He can also stretch you out, throw the ball vertical. We watched him in the spring game. He's got an arm on him, dude.
Yes, he does. Surprised the shit out of me.
Yeah, and he's pretty damn accurate too. That was the other thing I noticed.
Yep.
I mean, the offense was moving the ball down the field, and the thing I liked about it, and this is another thing that we touched on, the defense was kind of stopping them at points, right? Yep. Nebraska can be elite. Obviously, we saw what Casey Thompson in that offense did last year, and I think this is the better question here. You see what Casey Thompson did. So it's presumed that Casey Thompson took one look at Jeff Sims this during the spring and said, I don't know if I can beat him out. Maybe I can. Maybe I'm not getting a fair look because I've been injured during the spring. But something happened there where Matt Rule said, "Hey, Jeff Sims is our guy."
I think it's more. I think you touched on part of it. I think the other half was that play styles. Those quarterbacks had different play styles. Jeff Sims, his legs are awesome. I mean, he knows. I mean, we all know he played at Georgia Tech. They run a lot of option style, RPO style, run the ball with the quarterback. Nothing against Casey Thompson. Casey Thompson was a weird quarterback. Like one half, he looks like freaking Brett Favre out there, and then the next half, he looks like the bad Brett Favre. You know what I mean? And a lot of that had to do with their offensive line. I'm not throwing Casey Thompson under the bus. He had a great season here, but Jeff Simzo, man, the sky's the limit for this kid. Like I said, I think it's a good thing he's not overly hyped up. I like that about him. I think he can take the world by storm this year if he plays well. And I think Children of the Corn said somewhere in the chat, we do have some really good receivers this year. We got some great running backs. Our running back room is way up there, and it's tough to compete in the Big Ten with running backs as we talk about Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum and all these other guys in the Big Ten as running backs. Nebraska's got some good ones in Anthony Grant, and boy, I love my boys. I love myself some Gabe Urban, Christian. You know that. So the offense is going to mesh this year, man. I'm not worried about Nebraska's offense so much. It's more on the other side of the ball in that front seven. So
absolutely, Chris. Defensively, I kind of want to get your thoughts on this. We always like to kind of talk about some of this stuff. Defensively, what do you think?
I love myself some Luke Reimer's going to be back again. He's a senior. He's awesome. Heinrich's back again. We got him and Gifford. Our linebacker core is should be good. The big thing with me, Christian, we talk about this like, Christian, you're a big guy. That front four. We had a lot of question marks the last couple of years getting a pass rush, right? I swear Nebraska had like 6 sacks last year. I swear, and like 5 of them came in that Iowa game. I mean, if you're not getting pressure on the QB, and it doesn't have to be a sack, it doesn't have to be a pass batted down, but just to make that quarterback uncomfortable. Christian, you played quarterback in high school. You know this. If you got to step out of that pocket a half a second quicker or adjust your throw, that's helping your DBs out, man. We got torched last year by not getting pressure on the QB, and we have Ty Robinson's back. Obviously, he's been around, big son of a bitch. By the way, that guy's huge. But I mean, if these other guys can step up. Leinert, Sherman, these guys, MJ Sherman's been around. I mean, if we could step up and we got to be better than we were last year, I guess, essentially for me, Christian, on the front four.
Yeah. This MJ Sherman guy,
I don't know.
Where did he come from?
Say, some of this chat probably could help me out on that guy.
I can tell you, he came from Georgia, son.
Oh, of course you're doing that. That's what I thought. Of course, we have a lot of these Georgia players. If you want to send a few more of them our way, I'm cool with that too.
Well, probably before the end of the year, you'll probably get some more, by God. We're in a very giving mood this year.
Whoa. Or, let's stop for a second. Are you maybe talking about a potential recruit in not Dominic Raiola, but
Dylan
Raiola?
No, I don't think he flips.
Oh, you don't want to give him over?
I just said no. I said I don't think he's going to flip. I think that he will end up committing and staying at Georgia. He'll sign there. But I think ultimately, again, does he stay there for all 4 or 5 years? No.
Well, the kid's got a history of bouncing around. He's only played for like 4 different high schools in 4 years.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, history can certainly show us that. As far as Nebraska, though, Chris, I like MJ Sherman. I think, like you said, the linebackers are going to be, they're the best part of this team. 100%. Reimer, Heinrich, they're guys that have been around, played a ton of football. I really like Isaac Gifford, Newsome, Omar Brown, Marquise Buford. I mean, these guys have all in this secondary have been around for a while. They played a ton of ball. The defensive line, I mean, it's revamped. I mean, they're starting 2 freshmen up here. This guy, I don't know how to say his name, Princewell. I don't know how to say the last name, Uman Milan. I'm going to have to learn how to say his name and how to pronounce it correctly. That guy in the spring game, he was all over the ball.
He looked like he was a stud. I didn't even try to pronounce his name. You do that better than I do. But yeah, he was all over. He had actually a couple of huge hits in that game, if I'm not mistaken.
These 2 guys here, Princewell and MJ Sherman, I think they're going to be able to kind of fly around, get some pressure on the quarterbacks, and kind of the thing I want to see, Chris, is up front, the nose tackle, defensive tackle.
Exactly.
Ty Robinson, I want to see him step up and stuff gaps. Cameron Lindhart, he's a true freshman coming in. I want to see him do the same thing.
Big thing to me is Ty Robinson. Can he command a double team? That he's a monster. If you guys haven't seen him, which I'm sure my Nebraska boys here have, but like, he is a monster of a man, and he's gotten a lot of PT. He's a big question mark. You know what it is in nose guard, Christian. Command that double team. That helps your DNs out a ton, helps your linebackers out. That's a big question for Nebraska this year. Can we get, like I keep saying, can we get a pass rush? Something. Stop the run, get a pass rush. Doesn't have to be a ton of sacks, but hurries, pressures, all that stuff. Need that this year if Nebraska wants to win, 7, 8, hell, even 6 wins. I mean, they need that this year. We can't be getting in these games where we get down and we got to throw every freaking play and we're in a track meet type of game, and we got to rely so much on a new head coach this year, a new quarterback for us. That takes our running backs out of the game, essentially. Like, I want to be able to command the ball on the defensive side of the ball, if that makes sense, and slow it down a little bit, play a little more smash mouth football. Rule wants to run the ball. I love it. I want to get into those. Maybe it's not the prettiest game you'll ever see, Christian, but that not a lot of Big Ten games are pretty, though. They're really not.
No, I mean, they're definitely not. The question here from Corn, what about a Huskers kicking team? I think Bleak Road, I think he'll do a good enough job there. Yep. He looked pretty good in spring, too, if I wasn't mistaken, right?
Yeah, he did. We got to be more consistent, though, on the kicking game. Let's be honest. I mean, these guys know that we haven't had a great kicker. It's been a while. Nebraska's been known to put a lot of kickers in the NFL over the last 20 years, 30 years. It's got to be better. Last year was a hell of a lot better than it was the year before. Everybody remembers the 3-9 season here. And I mean, you might as well have me out there kicking PATs. I mean, it was atrocious. So anything is better. I think the special teams unit actually will be better this year than last year. I think we'll be okay on that side of the ball, guys. I truly, truly do this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, mainly because I think, yes, I understand the Matt Rule experiment in the NFL didn't work, but the NFL is such a special teams driven league to where you have guys that only are making that roster to play special teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got a feeling Rule will get them right in that regards.
That's where I'm at.
People are saying, hey, they don't care much for the kicking team. I've got a remedy for that problem, and that is just score a shit ton of touchdowns.
Absolutely.
And just don't let them score on you. That's the best way you can. Go ahead.
No, you were probably segmented into what I wanted to say about that. Nebraska always seems to put themselves lately, last couple of years, in situations where you need to be able to convert on 3rd down and 1, and you're in the red zone instead of kicking the field goal. You know what I mean? Even putting ourselves in that situation. That's where I'm at, and I mean that. I truly do. I've been saying that for years. Seems like we're attempting more field goals than we are getting first down, or not first downs, but even getting inside the 20. That drives me nuts. It's like we should be able to move that ball and at least if you do have to kick it, okay, we're not trying to kick a 45-yarder or a 50-yarder or even a 40-yarder. Like, it should be a chip shot. And you said it perfectly, Christian. I'll let you end it on that segment of, yeah, let's just put the goddamn ball in the end zone.
Yeah, and then we got some questions here about the black shirts. Are they going to continue that? I think they will. I think they will. Huskers in Hanover says, he thinks they're going to do it, obviously, but it's going to be in a very rule way. I agree. I think every coach, and I could be wrong with this, Chris, but from what I've seen, every coach comes in and they have their own spin on how they want to do the black shirts, right?
Absolutely. And I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I think they need to earn it. I hate this shit where it's Mike Riley did it where they hand them out before the season starts. Back in the days of Tom Osborne, Frank Solich, those good old days, you had to earn it. You know what I mean? You might not get that damn thing until week 7 or week 8, but if you did get it, I mean, that was like, you hear the old former Nebraska players talk about that, and it was like, I mean, it was like a medal. Seriously, it was taken seriously. Guys would cry over it. It's a big tradition. And the last few coaches have gotten into this habit of where it's just, it's handed out, but our defense is rated 87th in the country. You know what I mean? I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great tradition, but I think they need to earn it. You earn it. And when you're giving up 30 points a game, you're not earning it. And that's my opinion. Maybe I sound brutal for that, but I'm not into participation trophies, Christian. I know you are. You got one sitting on your desk over there. You see where I was going with that.
Oh, man. Listen, I agree with you, man. You got to earn it. You can't give the damn things away like it's a 99-cent store, and it's like a produce that's going to go bad. You don't want to just give it away. For me, it's exactly like you said, Chris. You got to do something. I mean, you remember, and some teams still do this, but you remember when helmet stickers were all the rage?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 100%.
I mean, dude, I remember that too. I mean, every team I had, you had the little helmet stickers and you wanted to get it. Like Ohio State, I think they still do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I think Georgia did it for a while. I think they've kind of since gone away with it. They had the little bones.
Right? The bones.
Yeah, they had the bones, man.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that. No, Ohio State still does it. Theirs is all about like big plays. They get that Buckeye or whatever the hell that even a Buckeye is. I think it's a nut, but which is hilarious to me. But yeah. Anyway.
You know all about that then.
Yeah. I'll leave it clean on this show tonight. No, I like I said, man. Black shirts overall, man. No, I think Rule understands that. He's obviously getting out, and I think he understands Nebraska tradition. He's no dummy, man. You hear him talk. I think tomorrow, somebody asked if we're going to be watching that as well. Absolutely. We're going to be paying attention, and we're going to be following the Huskers, guys, for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to be very interested to see what Rule. I don't know what Harbaugh is going to say, but all the coaches, I'm going to definitely be interested to see what they're saying. Ooh. Crypto says, what about that big gold chain Miami has on the sidelines?
That shit's so hyped up, man. Miami needs to get relevant.
I was going to say, you could probably take that chain and go cash it and probably buy some better players.
Yeah, well, yeah. It is a turnover chain. If they can get that offense ever going over there, too. But Miami's super sus, man. That's another team that we talked about a little bit this year, Christian. That actually, I'll be honest with you. If Miami needs to be relevant, I like when they're relevant in college football. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I mean, it makes the game better. It would help out the ACC. I'll tell you that. I think the ACC needs them more than anything to be better in that conference with North Carolina, Clemson, and Florida State. 100%.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's so top heavy this year. I mean, I know every year it's like Clemson and then everybody else, but this year, I mean, Clemson's not guaranteed to do anything spectacular this year.
I think everybody's riding my Florida State team.
Yeah, absolutely. And they bring it up too. That's a good segue there. Florida State will do good. What do you think? Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty high on them. I know it sounds crazy. Chris gives me a lot of shit for this. I think they lose to LSU week 1. I think they probably went out the rest of the way, and they got a shot at making it to the playoffs.
Crypto, man, I am the biggest. I'm not even a Florida State diehard, but I am super high on them this year. I got them actually. It's going to sound crazy saying this because they've had so much hype a lot of years. I have them going undefeated this year. I haven't beaten LSU. I haven't beaten Clemson this year. I have them in the playoffs. I am super high. I am a big Jordan Travis fan. if you guys don't know, not that it means everything, not the end all be all, obviously, but they return 18 starters or 19 starters. It's like the most in college football, basically. So Mike Norvell's got him headed in the right direction. I think he's a good coach. Finally, they got a good one there. I think Florida State's gonna be awesome this year. I know me and Christian differ on this a little bit, and he's big on LSU, and I don't blame him. That game was super, super ugly last year when they played. This year is probably one of the biggest, probably the biggest game, non-con game actually out of all of them, right? Christian has to be, I would assume. I mean, they're 2 top 5 teams, I think, playing right away. So,
yeah, we'll be there. We're going to be covering, that one. We're not going to be at the game, but we're going to be covering it on here, so that'll be, what we're going to do this season, and just so everybody knows too, is we're going to, everybody does like a post-game show. We don't really want to do that. We want to more or less just kind of do a live stream throughout the game and kind of call it, have you guys talk, and just kind of go from that direction. I think that's probably a little better, right? So
100%.
Another question here is, how will Alabama, will they lose a few? Chris, just like it's guaranteed I'm going to drink a few on a Friday night, it's guaranteed Alabama's going to lose a few this year.
No, 100%, man. I have them pegged at 10-2. Christian's lower on them. I love it. I can't stand Alabama. Again, it's not because of their fan base. It's not because of their players. It's because of their head coach. I can get into that someday. But this year, they don't have a quarterback. I don't care what I've heard so much crap, and I watched Nick Saban on the SEC media days, Christian, and we need competition, and we're not going to name a starter. And he's saying all the right things, and Ty Buckner looks good, and Jalen Milroe looks good, and all this shit. We know that Ty Buckner is going to be the starter. They got that young infant at OC, the failed coordinator over there at Notre Dame. I get it, man, but I actually have Bama losing to Texas this year. I also have them, I believe, losing to LSU. Like I said, I'm not the end-all, be-all, but Bama's going to be tough, and I have a lot of questions on their defense. I got ripped apart a couple weeks ago about saying their defense was not going to be great this year. Will Anderson's gone. They lost like 7 or 8 guys just on the defense alone to the NFL draft. I know they have the team's riddled with talent every year. That's a given, but their defense was super sus in big games last year. We know about the 52 that was it Tennessee put up on them, or who was it? LSU, whatever game was 52, and the other one they put up 32. So I mean, I'm a little so Kevin Steele. I mean, he's like a 98-year-old man out there. I know he's coached there a couple times, but and I'm not saying age has anything to do. I'm just saying like I don't see it this year, guys. I don't with Alabama. I could talk about them all day. Christian, what's your thoughts on Bama?
I pegged them at 8-4. I think that they're going to lose to, kind of the same teams you said, but I got losses at.
Did you have Texas A&M too, maybe losing? Or
I don't know. I know I definitely said. Let me pull their schedule back up. I know I said Texas, LSU, potentially. Let me just pull their schedule up here and take a look at it. I got them 8-4. I know that. Let's see.
Wow, I can't believe you even said that. You should be like, you're gonna get crucified if somebody catches that on air.
What, 8-4?
Oh, Bama 8-4, dude?
Yeah.
Nick Saban don't even know what 8 wins looks like, bro.
Yeah, well, okay. Listen, let me get this. Let me get the schedule up here, right? I'll tell you. Play Middle Tennessee.
There's your one.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Tennessee.
Yeah,
I can't believe I thought about that. All right. So you got Texas. That's going to be a lot. And the reason why I'm saying this, here's what I will say. Here's what I'm saying. And the reason why I say this, their quarterbacks have looked like absolute trash. You got Ty Buckner and Tommy Reese married at the frickin' hip coming in here to do what? The last time we saw those two on a field together was against Marshall, and they put up 13 frickin' points.
That was
and they're going to and let me just say this. Marshall versus Notre Dame from a talent disparity level is going to be about as good as you're going to see. I think Alabama and Middle Tennessee, that's about that kind of level. You know what I mean? That's about the kind of level. Because against Texas, it ain't going to be that. South Florida, I'll give you that. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, nope. Texas A&M, and you can just go through the rest of the schedule from a talent disparity level from what Notre Dame was against Marshall. And that's the quarterback and offensive coordinator you got out there to put up a whole whopping 13 points. So all I'm saying is if that's who you're putting your hopes and dreams on, I think Texas will beat them. It was a close game last year. They should have won. if they would have had a quarterback that could have literally walked out of that stadium at the end of the game. If Malik Murphy this year was put in that game last year, guarantee you, when Ewers got hurt, they would have won. Ole Miss is going to be good, so that I've got that as a potential loss for them. Texas A&M, they're going to be better this year. They could potentially upset them. They've got a talented enough team, and Jimbo can definitely do it. He's done it before. Arkansas, very good team. I don't know. I mean, again, it just depends. If KJ Jefferson, they've got the best running back, quarterback duo, I think, in the country this year. Arkansas does with KJ Jefferson and Sanders, Raheem Sanders there. They could do something if Bama has an off day on offense, which, again, looking at it, Tennessee, LSU, right? We already know how I feel about that. Yeah, this is a 4-loss team, legit 4-loss team. So,
okay,
I'll say this to wrap it up on Bama, then we'll kind of get into some of this other stuff here. Chris, I saw Nick Saban at SEC Media Days. A reporter asked him, I'm not shitting you, a reporter asked him, you know how players have pre-games, like a go-to song they listen to before a game to get them hyped, or like a hype playlist? Somebody asked him, what's your go-to song, Coach? What's on your playlist? Oh, boy. This is a serious question. And Nick Saban, old Nick Saban would have just absolutely crucified him. He actually answered him. Yeah, he actually answered him, and he said, well, I don't actually listen to music. I listen to a little bit of, I don't know, some Rolling Stone song, like after the game's over, and yeah.
Oh, dude. I'm not even gonna get started on that guy. I ain't got enough time on this show to do that. But Bama. Let's move. Oh boy, I have a different take here. I have a way. Yeah. This is weird because you're the Georgia fan. Georgia's not going to do that too good. What do you think? I think Georgia, with their schedule, I know Christian doesn't want to hear it. He feels like I'm playing the same old song and dance here, but I have them going undefeated regular season. I do. I think Georgia, I like Kirby Smart. I think he's a hell of a coach. I think he had a lot of success with those previous Alabama programs. I think people forget about that. He's awesome, man. Georgia's going to be good this year. I know Christian, his take and why he's going to take it, but I'll let him explain. I actually think Georgia goes undefeated this year as far as regular season. And I can't believe I'm saying that because there's only been like one team, in the 40s, Yale or whoever, who's three-peated. I think Georgia has a really good shot this year to do so. I know there's no Stetson Bennett. I get that. But Stetson Bennett, great kid, he's one of those generational team players that you get, but they're going to be good this year. I don't care what anybody says. Christian, go ahead and tell me why you guys are going 9-3. So when you go undefeated, you can run around and show up with this no shirt on during the podcast. So come on, man.
Chris, I think it depends on what your definition of not good is going to be. I mean, my definition, like the Georgia standard is kind of up there with that Bama standard now.
Oh, 100%,
right?
100%.
Where you lose 2 or 3 games in a season, and that's not very good. Right? The same thing with Nebraska, right? Nebraska kind of got to that point.
Bo Pelini did that.
Yeah, Bo Pelini. Yep. Thank you. Nebraska got to that point, and Georgia can very well lose 2 or 3 games this year. Is it likely? No. But, South Carolina is going to be a dangerous team who we have always historically struggled with, especially early in the season. South Carolina might could pull something off, right? Here's the other side. You got Tennessee. Tennessee's reloading with Joe Milton. They've got some weapons in the wide receiver room. I think they'll be a little bit better on defense this year. If they come correct and Georgia's breaking in a new quarterback, right? It's I think they were on the road against Tennessee this year. That could be a very tough place to play for Carson Beck, dude. I mean, that can be a really tough place. And then, last but not least, Ole Miss. Every time you play those teams from the West, man, because it rotates, right? We played A&M, we played Mississippi State, we play Ole Miss now this year. We don't play Ole Miss all that often. Lane Kiffin might have something a little dangerous over there. Not to mention, they got Pete Golding, who was Bama's coordinator. Now, I know a lot of people are very low on Golding, but I think he'll be an improvement at Ole Miss. And I think, again, these are all games that you would circle in what a lot of people are calling a very easy schedule that could be trap games for Georgia.
I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm not. But I know what you're trying to do, Christian. You're trying to play the safe card, as a Georgia fan. You don't want to get too hyped. You don't want to be walking around with your pants down, holding on to it, talking about how Georgia's going to three-peat this year. I know how you Georgia people are. Don't get me wrong. No, I'm with you. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but I love Kirby Smart. I do. I think he's a great coach. I think he knows what he's doing. I think even Georgia with the inexperience at quarterback this year against teams like a Tennessee with Joe Milton and that kind of caliber of quarterbacks, which you're going to face in the SEC. I just do. I think your guys' defense is always so goddamn good every year, and you guys reload. We know you guys got 5 stars all across the board. You guys have become the new Alabama, as you will. I see a lot of success. One team I do want to jump into, Crypto did bring up Oregon. I want to talk about them before we wrap it up tonight, by the way. Yes. Oregon Ducks, Christian, I want to hear your take. I rattled on about your Georgia Bulldogs. What's your thoughts?
Well, we talked a little bit about Washington in this. I kind of said that they would, they're going to win the Pac-12 this year, or at least make it to the championship game. I think Oregon gets a ton of pieces back. Mainly they get a quarterback, back in Bo Nix, who can be pretty damn good in that league, right? They get some other weapons back as well. Dan Lanning, hell of a coach. He's going to have them a lot better on the defensive side of the ball this year. Not that they were terrible last year, but they got in some shootouts, and that's not really the style of football Dan Lanning wants to play. For me, Chris, I think Oregon is going to be much better this year. They're going to be a tougher team to play. I could see Oregon getting in there and upsetting, and not that they're not going to be favored in a lot of the games, but I could see them getting in there and making a run for it too.
I'm high on Oregon this year. I actually have it split between them, and USC is kind of the top contenders. I actually have them losing to Texas Tech, which is crazy. Tyler Schlau, I think is his name for Texas Tech, was Oregon's quarterback. A couple of years ago, he was on that roster. I have Oregon also. I think I have them like losing to Utah or Oregon State or something like that, but I haven't beaten USC this year. That's just my predictions. But I'm very high on Oregon. I think Oregon is right up there with Washington, USC for this Pac-12 title this year. I'm big on Bo Nix, though. I think he's a good quarterback. We all know he played at Auburn. Probably didn't have as much success as the Auburn fans want him to have there, but he had a crazy great stat season last year with Oregon in that offense. You said it best, Dan Lanning. He's a Georgia guy. He did a great job there last year. I could see Oregon winning the Pac-12 this year. So I'm relatively high on the Ducks. I got them, I think rated 9 currently, but they're going to be a tough out this year. I don't see how they finish any worse than like 9-3 this year. I really don't. I know their schedule's not easy, but I just don't, Christian.
I don't either. Let's jump into a name we haven't seen in a while here. Kyler Peterson.
Oh my God, this guy.
Little KP.
Yeah.
Nebraska will be 12-0 and win the Natty. Well, by God, if the Natty is, natural light, like which Chris drinks over there, then maybe.
Busch Light.
Well, whatever.
You know what, man? I love myself an optimistic Nebraska fan, baby. Kyler Peterson, I don't know how much money you have, but if you would just feel free to put like $100 down in Vegas right now, you might walk away with like $40K if this happens. So, no, I love it though. I do. Nebraska's not going 12-0. I don't even think he's serious about it, but they have a chance this year, guys. I think Nebraska's one of those teams. Like I've been saying, if we get 6 wins and make a bowl game, that's a win for me. I have them pegged at 8-4 this year. I've really had to move their record prediction around a lot, Christian. I know you're actually higher on them than I am this year. There's an outlier and there's a way for them to get there. But that game against Minnesota, guys, I keep bringing it up. I really want to see how we look. It's at Minnesota. Minnesota has beaten us, I believe, like 4 of the last 5 years or something like that. They play us tough. Road game, first-year head coach with us, first-year quarterback with us. It'll be very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, in all seriousness, though, I think they have a good shot this year to make it to, I think they have a really good shot this year to make it to a Big Ten championship game, right? About as good as any other year, I would say. But I think this year I like what Rule can do. I think he can get them there. Do I think he can win it against Ohio State and Michigan? Or even a Penn State, should they make it there? That's going to be kind of tough in year one, but I think he can get them there at least, which would go a long way with the fan base.
Man, that's
also, if they, listen, it depends. All it takes is I look at Wisconsin and Iowa as the same team, bro. Elite on defense, garbage on offense, right? Has Iowa really done that much? And I know I've been super high on them, and I had to pick them. And if Iowa doesn't beat Nebraska, I have to go get frosted tips. So boo-hoo. But let's just kind of look at this realistically. Does Cade McNamara, does he really make Iowa that much more elite? I mean, seriously, does he? Because he's one piece of the puzzle. I think.
No, you make a great point. I don't think Cade McNamara takes their offense to tremendous levels. No, but you can't get any worse than they were last year. And I'm not worried about really. I don't want to say that. Let me rephrase that for the Iowa fan out there. I don't think Iowa is going to be terrible this year by any means. I think they're going to be great on defense. We know what type of teams that Kirk Ferentz throws out there, especially on the defense side of the ball. But you know what they're going to do. That doesn't scare me, even if I'm Nebraska, Illinois, some of these other teams. Illinois, sorry, I said it wrong. On the other side of the ball, it's more like Wisconsin's the team that I know you like. I'm a simp for Luke Fickell, as you keep calling me. I just think Wisconsin's going to be awesome this year. I think they're going to be tough. I don't think they even come near close to their record last year at 5-7. We struggle with them historically anyway. That's if you're talking about Nebraska having to try to compete with them in the West. I think that's tough because I think Wisconsin actually has more talent than we do and more pieces returning. And Luke Fickell, I know he knows how to coach. And I'm not saying Rule doesn't. It's more just like, I will say this, though. We play them at the end of the year. That's a good thing for Nebraska. I think if we can get some momentum built up at that point, and it'll be a tough game. I'm not saying Wisconsin just comes in and kicks our ass. No, Wisconsin. I'm super high on Wisconsin this year. You know that, Christian. You've laughed at me and called me names and called me a stooge and a degenerate. You don't know what the hell I'm looking at. So,
if you guys want a good book to read, go back and look at our Wisconsin video and look at the pinned comment that I put up there, or that we put up there.
Oh my God.
Because I'm not kidding. There was a Wisconsin fan that went through
I read that
and wrote a novel. And then the response was like, it's basically like, if you just look at the responses, it's a novel on there.
Oh God, yeah. You had to spend an hour on that.
I had to. I mean, I had to spend an hour reading it because I can barely read. No, I think the big thing here, Chris, and this is Children of the Corn says if Nebraska goes undefeated, he'll do our yard work for a week. I like it. Let's go. Yeah. Add it to the side bets.
Yeah, we got a whole long list here, guys. Don't worry.
TCU this year, Chris. We've touched on them. 7-5.
Yep.
I think they're going to be. I think they're going to do better than that. I'd have to probably look back at it again. I think they're going to go on that improbable run and win the Big 12 this year. No, but I think they'll. They're not going.
Step back.
I think they're going to take a step back, but I think they still have a lot of pieces. They went out and got some Alabama players to come over, which anytime you can go get SEC talent and bring it over to the Big 12, that's 100%. Probably going to bode really well for you. The quarterback they have, I'm drawing a blank here on his name. I think if I'm not mistaken, he actually beat out Dugan last year for the job, and then got hurt, and then seceded the job back to Dugan. So. I mean, the kid's, he's a really good athlete. I want to say there was some crazy stat, like they didn't lose a game with him in there or something like that. Mm-hmm. But I like him. Let me see here real quick. Yeah,
I'm not off on TCU. It's just I just think that there's a couple other teams that are going to rise in the Big 12 this year for me. No team ever wins the Big 12 back to back. It just doesn't happen.
Chandler Morris, that's who it was.
There you go.
Yeah, they also, so here's another thing too, Chris. They went out and got Trey Sanders, right? Trey Sanders. Let's see here. Andrew Coker. I think he was at Bama, if I'm not mistaken. They also had, was he? No, Andrew Coker was not. Maybe I'm thinking of Brandon Coleman. One of those guys. But anyways, they do have JoJo Earl, another guy that I know you've heard of. I've heard of him just from his time at Alabama. Trey Sanders right now. They got Trey Sanders listed as their number 3 running back, which is crazy to me. I'm thinking of Tommy Brockmeyer. Okay, there we go. So, Chris, they've got depth too. They've got a lot of positions where they've got depth. I think the biggest thing that I'm looking at here, they could absolutely win 9 games this year.
Yeah, I just don't. I know Crix is through an 8. You know, I mean, they have a chance to win 9. I just think the Big 12 is kind of up for grabs. Other than I think everybody has predominantly Texas, me included, kind of dominating the Big 12 this year. But Texas Tech is another team, guys, that a lot of people are sleeping on. I think they're going to be really good this year. I'm pretty high on them. And then I think Oklahoma is going to be better. You know, I know Christian, you're a big Brett Venables fan. I just think I mean, I don't want to say like Iowa State is going to surprise you, but there's Baylor in there. They're kind of in the mix of just one of those tougher teams. I don't know. TCU is a very interesting team, though. Sonny Dykes a hell of a coach. I could promise you guys they're not going to have the season they had last year, but if they do get the 9 wins, then by all means, and it is definitely a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right here, Chris. Well, let's kind of wrap it up here. We're gonna respond to one last thing, talking about, let's start the show later. We'll do that. Like I said, we'll start later. Big thing is, I mean, it doesn't really bother us. I mean, I think starting later would be pretty good for us. It's just one of those things where, me and Chris still work. We don't want to make excuses or anything like that. So if we can start a show earlier, it kind of lets us get back on with everything. But I don't mind starting later if Chris doesn't mind. So
no, I don't mind either, guys. By the way, thank you guys again. I can't stress enough how nice this is to have you guys dropping stuff in the chat. I'm not trying to get all sentimental over this stuff, but like I do appreciate you guys coming in and following us and watching. It's awesome, man. I love Christian and I want everybody to know. And I say that I've said this before. Christian's, we all know Christian's a big Bulldogs fan, right? And he should be. He's from Georgia. I'm from Nebraska, like not all you guys are, but like a lot of you guys. I love college football in general, though. I love, Christian's the same way. That's why we do this podcast. And I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your debates. And we love, doing this, 2-minute drill here at the end or whatever, and just wrapping it up and just chopping it up and talking football, man. I don't care what team it is. Christian's a super knowledgeable guy. I like to think I know some stuff about college football, but I mean, we love talking. So, like I said, I appreciate you guys' support, not to rant there, but thank you guys a ton.
I really appreciate it. Chris obviously went on that, he took 5 minutes off my life with that long spiel there, No, I'm just kidding. But we really do appreciate it. We're going to be back on Friday. We're going to jump in. We're going to jump in on Friday. I'll change the time to about 8:00, maybe on Friday night. So we'll kind of probably be about 4 or 5 beers deep by that point. So it'll be a good show. I suggest
you guys grab some too as well.
Yeah.
If you're of age, though.
Yeah. If you're of age watching the show, we're not condoning, allegedly, we're not condoning this. All right, guys. Well, we'll see everybody back on Friday at 8.